Iron Mike states that he'll be fighting former IBF, WBA, WBC champion Lennox Lewis in an exhibition match in September.
I'm gonna fight Lennox Lewis.
The former heavyweight king made his highly anticipated return to the sport last year in November, fighting Roy Jones Jr. in an 8-round exhibition bout that concluded in a draw. Later, it was rumored that Iron Mike will go up against Evander Holyfield in a trilogy bout, but the fight never materialized as both the parties failed to come to an agreement.
I want Holyfield and I want Lennox Lewis this year.
Now though, it appears that Tyson has found a suitable replacement for Holyfield in Lewis. 19 years ago, Lennox stopped an over-the-hill Tyson in the 8th round in June 2002 in Memphis, Tennessee. Tyson looked terrible in that fight, running out of gas after the first 2 rounds and getting picked apart by the taller 6'5" Lewis. This would be an all-timers version of rematch between the two 50-plus-year-old heavyweights. It was late November when Mike Tyson returned to the boxing ring to take on fellow legend Roy Jones Jr. While the fight ended in a controversial draw, even though it was clear Tyson won, it was still an enjoyable event overall.
I entertained the crowd was happy with it.
Mike Tyson had been in discussions for an exhibition match against former 2-division world champion Evander Holyfield for May 29th in Miami, Florida, but the negotiations fell apart over disagreements over money. Instead, Holyfield will be fighting 47-year-old former Tyson conqueror Kevin McBride on the undercard of Teofimo Lopez vs George Kambosos on June 5th. It seems pretty obvious that Holyfield's management picked McBride as his opponent to set up a fight that they hope to get against Tyson afterward.
There's a lot of things me and Mike have done together that works, because obviously the people like to see the two best people.
Holyfield, despite his great accomplishments during his career, was never as popular as Tyson. Holyfield's star power was diminished by his decision to continue fighting long past his prime into his 40s, which led him to get beaten 7 times after he fought Tyson. Tyson twice lost to Holyfield during his career, losing by an 11th round knockout in 1996 and then suffering a 3rd round disqualification defeat in their rematch in 1997. That was the fight in which Tyson was disqualified after he bit a portion of Holyfield's ear off after he'd been accidentally suffered a cut from a headbutt. Mike Tyson is so popular that he doesn't need to fight Holyfield to make money. If the Holyfield exhibition match never takes place, it won't matter. Tyson can fight lots of different guys. Now, Iron Mike is back at it again, looking to avenge a 2002 loss when he takes on Lennox Lewis. When you compare the performance by Tyson against Lewis from how he looked while in his prime in the mid-80s, it was like 2 different fighters. The Tyson-Lewis fight generated a lot of money for both fighters, but it failed to live up to the expectations boxing fans had. Tyson turned pro in 1985 when he was just 19, not long after the sparring sessions. Lewis, by contrast, had a stellar amateur career, winning Olympic gold in 1988. He turned pro in 1989. Tyson peaked in the mid to late 80s, right after he became the undisputed world champion at age 20. Lewis' prime was probably when he actually beat Tyson in 2002 in Memphis. Though Tyson was born in 1966, a year later than Lewis, the two clearly peaked at different times.
That was a tremendous.
Tyson in his prime loved fighting taller opponents and used a lot of his head movement, upper body speed and his low center of gravity to gain leverage for his vicious combinations, which he stopped using later in his career, to great effect against big men. Lewis is arguably one of the top 5 greatest heavyweights of all time. He beat every opponent who climbed in the ring with him, even avenging his only 2 losses, and had all the skills and physical attributes to compete with anyone, combining big heart and toughness for good measure. Lewis liked to hit his opponents at the end of his long jab, but also could go toe-to-toe and fight if needed.
Stick the jab in Holyfield's face.
Still, the speed, elusiveness, and all-around relentlessness, a prime of career Tyson, would have certainly caused a lot more problems for Lewis than when he fought a mere shell of Tyson that night in Memphis. Tyson's combination speed and power would most probably have caught up with Lewis in the mid to late rounds and more than likely caused the fight stoppage in Tyson's favor. There is no way to know how a primetime fight might have ended had these 2 heavyweight legends met at the peak of their powers, but it's fun to speculate.
In a professional fight. And he's down again.
Should the fight come to fruition, it is expected to break major pay-per-view records, considering the rivalry between the 2 parties. Tyson made the blockbuster announcement that the pair, with a combined age of 109, will stand toe-to-toe again.
I'm gonna fight Lennox Lewis in September.
September?
Yeah.
The 2 heavyweights are rightly regarded as boxing royalty, but neither have an unblemished record. Tyson suffered 6 defeats in his 56-fight record, with Lewis losing 2 of his 44. 44 of Tyson's 50 wins came by way of knockout, with Lewis amassing 32 KOs from 41 wins. The Brit will have a huge size and reach advantage. Tyson is 5'10" with 71-inch reach, while Lewis is 6'5" with an 84-inch reach. Tyson last competed in an exhibition bout against Roy Jones at the first Legends Only League event in November. Iron was in phenomenal shape and looked to have done enough to win, following the 8th-round bout.
He trained well, he was in good shape.
We saw in that bout that it was a sparring match. The few times that Tyson hurt Jones to the body, they would clinch for the remainder of the round, ultimately resulting in a draw.
His punches, his body shots don't matter. Everything hurts.
Tyson being favored to win is largely due to his recent return to the ring. He has been training hard lately, and in his post-fight comments following his recent bout with Roy Jones, Tyson stated his intention to continue on.
Search and destroy it. I'm looking forward to capturing my glory.
Lewis has not fought since 2003 and will need to rid himself of 18 years worth of ring rust in order to fight Tyson. Lewis will likely employ the same strategies that he did during their first fight and use his height and reach to keep enough distance between the two to severely dampen Tyson's explosive uppercuts and lunging punches. Despite this bout existing within the realm of celebrity boxing, both fighters will enter the ring determined to put their opponent on the mat for a 10 count.